So I've got this friend Mike, and one thing him and I share in common is that our first cars were Honda Accords, and our second car was a Mark V Volkswagen GTI. The Mark V is a legendary hot hatch, built in Germany and a huge upgrade to its predecessor. It's the car that gave me the car owner virus. Same for Mike. He owned his until it was dead. The time Mike couldn't afford to fix it, and he sold it for parts, and I lent him the money Pagetta in the meantime. But anytime we chat, Mike could never stop talking about his GTI. Recently, he sent me the listing to a final year, 4-door Autobahn edition in tornado red with a manual transmission Mark V GTI that had been totaled in a light rear-end collision. This car had to have been custom ordered new, as it's super rare to have a spec just like this one. When Mike was on a pretty tight budget, I thought it was worth a shot. And here's what happened shortly after we bid. And I think we found what we came to claim. Our car is not the Lincoln. It's behind the Lincoln. Similar color to the Lincoln. We got to be careful. See, it's all mucky here. Yeah. So there it is. The Volkswagen GTI. From this angle, again, it looks really clean, but the other side, the whole car is... No, I'm kidding. This is really the only damage, well, at least what was depicted in the photos, and it's really clean. A little bit of paint peeling right here on the spoiler. That's not a big deal at all. That's some clear coat peel. You could sand that. That is really, again, pretty nice so far. A little bit of damage in the rear. I wouldn't even mess with that, Mike. For what your intended purposes are with this car, not too bad so far. Let's go around. Now, one of the big reasons we picked this GTI is, if you look, it's got the leather interior. When you see leather interior in a GTI, it's actually fairly rare. It's always a loaded car. Sunroof. What happened?
No, this is where the owner's manual
goes. They took the owner's manual. Mike, is your heart broken or what?
No, I like seeing complete stuff. I wonder if the Fast is in here too.
The Fast is definitely not. I'm gonna put a picture of the Fast on the screen. It was like some toy add-on you got when you bought it. Look, we're not buying brand new, Mike. Okay, that's what, when you get a deal, the Fast does not come with it. But you get a loaded up car, and this is the last model year of the Mark V. This is the last, right?
Look.
Oh,
I got my receipt.
Oh, brand new receipt with a new bat. What is there a year on
the? Look, February 10, 2020.
Oh my gosh, this was, dude. This, look how clean the engine bay is.
The date on the battery is January 2020. So they just put that battery in this car, and they had an issue. They had an accident.
So somebody had full coverage on this car. They got bought out of it.
Oh my god.
This is like, okay, look, do we have a check engine?
I think we have a miss, maybe.
A little rough idle. A little rough idle. It's not a Volkswagen if it doesn't have a check engine light on, right? Yeah. So that's fine. And it's been sitting here a little bit. Dude, this car, no, seriously, it's very clean, Mike. You picked a good one. I like it. I at first was like, man, Mike wants some 100,000+ mile clapped out GTI. To whoever owned this before, thank you so much. This is in my opinion one of the best GTIs ever produced, and you took care of this one. And it's a great color, tornado red. I like this color a lot.
It's a real nice color, yeah.
So, Mike, seriously, if you don't want it, man, I'll take it home. I'll add it to a field of unfinished cars. And really, the goal here is to rebuild this car in what, 25-30 minutes? Yeah. If we can source another trunk.
This isn't cracked.
Yeah, I thought for sure you were gonna get one of these taken out.
I didn't even think about the glass until I started looking it up, and I looked and the glass is good. I mean, the skin's what damaged.
Everything is good here. It's just gonna be way easier to source an entire trunk, and if we can get one in red, that's the ticket, dude. Getting one in red is totally the ticket. Otherwise, yeah, then we're gonna have to just paint just this. Look, it's literally this small area right here. That'll be no sweat. This one is super nice, super clean. I'm a big fan of the 4-door. I had the same exact trim. Good pick, man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now let's go to the bank and get that money. It's been a few hours since we last started this car at auction. We really only had it running for a few seconds, so this is a true cold start. And remember, our check engine light is on right here. We do have a little bit of a rough idle. Now, after about a minute of just idling, our check engine light has turned into a flashing check engine light, and that is very bad. So we're gonna shut it off. And we're going to use Carly to diagnose exactly why we have this problem. Now, Carly is something I showed you on my 3 Series BMW. This is a very powerful diagnostic scanner specifically for BMWs, Volkswagens, and Audis. It's really simple. We just plug it in to the OBD port down here. And this is going to wirelessly connect to an app on my phone. Once connected to the GTI, I scan for trouble codes. And the nice thing about Carly on a Volkswagen, it doesn't just check engine codes, it has the ability to scan every single module for errors, something that generally only high-dollar scanners can do. In our case, Carly came up with a slew of trouble codes. Now, what I've generally found is that 1 or 2 major issues can trigger several error codes. The goal here is to fix the major issues, which should rectify everything all at once. In this case, most of our codes are for misfires, but why is our engine actually misfiring? It can happen for a million different reasons, but it's best to clear out all our codes first, run the car again, have it generate the check engine light, which should minimize error codes and give us a clear idea of what's at fault. All right, now here's first startup after clearing all the codes. Ooh, that was rough. Wow, it is idling really rough now. We'll shut it off, turn it over one more time. It just dies right out. I'm guessing it's due to the resets, but we're having a really hard time starting this. Let's see if we can get it running. Yeah, it just wants to die right out. Even though the car's giving us a bit of trouble here, our engine light came back almost immediately, which is a good thing. A quick rescan with Carly only generated 1 code this time, a P2015, something that the VW guys are all too familiar with. It's a code that refers to the intake manifold runners. Basically, there's a set of flaps in the intake manifold that open and close to allow a specific amount of air into your engine. What usually happens is that the arm that controls these flaps fails, and the car's having a hard time correlating between the amount of throttle you're providing it and the actual air coming in, so it runs rough, exactly like we're experiencing here. The problem is so common on these cars, Volkswagen actually came out with an extended warranty interval on it for 10 years. This car's a 2009, so we missed it by a year, but the good news is this is a part that is readily available at the local dealer, and while I'd rather buy it online at FC Piero and get the lifetime warranty and pay way less, my goal is to rebuild this car in literally hours, so I ran to the dealer and picked up the part for a little bit under 200 bucks. There may be more German cars in this field than there are cows, and since I do all my own maintenance, all my own repairs, and I refuse to go to the dealership, I've become a huge fan of Carly. I've yet to find a tool this powerful at this price point. If you visit Carly by using my link in the description box below, you're gonna save 20% off one of these. It's about 80 bucks, so that money you save can go towards some 12-cylinder Phaeton parts. And even if your car isn't from a German automaker, you can go to Carly's site, punch in your make and model, and they'll tell you exactly what Carly can do for your car, because it can run general diagnostics. While the light version of Carly is totally free and very intuitive, I've been using the premium version of the Carly app. It adds a ton of advanced features, which we'll explore in a bit, and the cost of the adapter and the subscription combined is way cheaper than one dealer diag, so it essentially pays for itself. I gotta give a huge thanks to Carly for partnering with me, sponsoring this video, and keeping clapped out rides like this BMW M3 actually functional. I just need enough juice to get it off the trailer. Let's see here. There we go. All right, let's see if we can just, we're moving it a little bit here. There we go. I mean, here's what it just sounds like at idle. We're gonna get that taken care of right now. probably over 10 years ago now that I think about it, but I've done a very similar manifold job to this, but it was on the previous version of the engine. It's close, but there were a few hidden screws and lines that totally threw me off here. Instead of wasting the time trying to hunt down every little piece that needed to come off, in which case if you take something off the wrong way, you might end up breaking it, I hopped on EMO, which is a site I use for cheap workshop manuals. These manuals contain the DIY step-by-step instructions to do basically any job on almost any car. They're not just for Volkswagens, they have manuals for most makes and models. Here's the section on this Volkswagen manual for this intake manifold job. I think the manual was around 20 bucks, and this is an interactive manual which lives on my computer, so I can use it in the future if I ever work on this car again. Every time I show these shop manuals, I get a ton of messages asking me for the site, so I'm just going to drop a link to it in the description box below. I've always said anybody can accomplish these sort of jobs just with simple hand tools and a guide like our shop manual, but the Germans always like to do little frustrating things. This is a pretty straightforward job, a lot of fasteners, a lot of wiring harnesses that unclip, but when you get to the end of it, there's just two little screws hiding underneath the intake manifold, keeping everything in place here and making our life a little bit more difficult. You might have a T30 Torx socket, which takes out most of these screws. You might even have one of these T30 Allen tools that is really helpful to get into tight areas, but you gotta have even weirder stuff. So I have this right here. This is a magnetic tool that also has the claw end. So when you push this button on the end, you can see the claw comes out. So in order to get my T30 socket in there to undo those bolts, what I did is I snake this in, holding it with the claw tool so I don't lose it in the engine bay. And then you could see where they make a slight little opening in the bottom of the manifold right here. And where is it? Right here, it's underneath all this right there to get in there. So you gotta hold your socket in place and then push your wrench in through, because the opening is so small, the socket itself won't fit through this hole. Frustrating German Volkswagen stuff, but if you got a slew of tools like you see here, you can get this job done in the same amount of time it would take a Volkswagen tech. With those two screws out, wiggling this around a little bit, here's our intake manifold. I left the throttle body attached. That's the easy way to get this out, and then we'll just attach the throttle body to the replacement intake manifold over there when we're ready. But before we put everything back together, inside here is where we're going to want to do a quick carbon cleanup. This stuff, I mean, 160,000 miles doesn't look terrible, but you know, you could see all that baked on carbon. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to stick them in a can. Oh yeah, never mind. Maybe these are like really terrible. I poured a little bit of this carbon cleaning solvent into this canister. You can see how gross that turns, but it'll just be a matter of a few minutes. The stuff will be coming right off. We'll wipe them clean. And while that's soaking, we'll go carbon clean our valves. It's tough to see, but I did a quick carbon cleaning in the cylinder heads here. All you do, turn the crank pulley over by hand until the valves are sealed up. You can pour a little bit of the solvent into the passages here. Let it sit again like we did with our plates, and then you wipe it, scrape it off, use a shop towel. I did scrape any excess nasty stuff off. This is substantially better. Look, this is what came out from inside there. And remember what our plates look like. Here's what they look like after sitting in the solvent for quite a while and then wiping them clean. No, I'm not gonna get every little piece of grime or dirt off there. This is perfectly fine, as are these. This car should run excellent once everything is put back together. Here's our old intake manifold. I already went and transferred our throttle body to the new intake manifold. With everything clean, let's go ahead, line things up, and put everything back together. Not so bad, right? Everything's put back together. Everything should be plugged in. I did a double check. There's a lot of hoses and connectors, so don't blame me if when we fire this thing up, it gives us a little bit of trouble, especially since we did mess with fuel. Here we go. Let's fire it up. That sounds excellent. No missing, no sputtering like we experienced before. And now what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna take Carly, we're gonna plug it back in to our diagnostic port down here. and we're gonna clear our check engine light, and I'll bet that this will go off once and for all. And here's our previous health status. I think we threw a bunch more codes when we were moving this off the trailer and I was giving the car gas. It was misfiring. So let's go ahead, let's clear all the codes. At this point, Carly has cleared our check engine light. Now, most importantly, we want to shut this off. We're going to start it up one more time. We want to make sure that it doesn't immediately come back on, because that means we didn't fix our issue, or maybe we forgot to unplug something during our intake manifold install. Okay, so we can see it didn't pop immediately back on. We're good there. Let's take it for a spin and see how it drives. Runs pretty good. Oh, much better, much better. With that traction off, it just keeps pulling in first and second gear. Great little car. This shifter is awesome. Goes right into gear, really direct. You can shift it nice and fast if you want. It's got a long throw to it. I think that adds to the fun. But when I hit the clutch pedal, listen, there's a click. I've never heard that. When I owned this car, I didn't have a manual, I had an automatic, so I never heard that click. But let me know in the comment section below if you have one of these cars. Does that clutch click like that? Thanks to the carbon cleaning and intake manifold replacement, this car runs awesome. It's amazing considering how much we paid for it. We're gonna break down all those numbers in a little bit. But while Carly is still hooked up, I wanna show you two really cool features. The first one is an odometer fraud check. Now, when Carly first connects to your car, it grabs some general data, which can be used for a bunch of different things. One of the cool things is this used car check. So our Volkswagen has 158,000 miles, right? Nobody turned back the odometer on this car, at least I would hope not. But say you're going to the BMW dealership looking at a 50,000 mile certified pre-owned car. How are you supposed to know for sure those are the original miles or not? Unfortunately, in today's day and age, it's pretty simple to turn back the mileage on an odometer just using dealer level software. Modern cars have so many modules hidden in various places around the cabin that carry all sorts of data. Multiple modules carry the mileage or the odometer reading. So what Carly will do is it will check all the modules against one another, and if any of the numbers don't match up, it will tell you, hey, the mileage has been rolled back. In this case, you see right here, Carly has detected no tampering. So again, we got a higher mileage car. I didn't expect anything like that. Now the other thing, we're gonna have to turn on the engine for this, and I wanna show you a feature of every single Mark V Volkswagen in the United States. When you drive this car, something comes on called, look, you see the light popped on right there, your DRL, or your daytime running lights. That is kind of a annoying thing, at least in my opinion. Maybe it's just a mental thing for me, but they don't make a whole lot of sense. So daytime running lights run all the time. When your car is on, they're on. And bulbs burn out, and then you got to go in and replace them. You can't go to the dealership and say, hey, turn these off. There's nothing in the settings that says, hey, turn these off. This is in the software of the car. Well, Carly allows you to code your Volkswagens, your Audis, and your BMWs, get to that dealer level access. You can actually make your car your own by customizing it. You can change the lighting and the inside. You can change the way how the door lock button works on your key fob. There's a million different things you can program with coding, but right now, we're gonna turn off those daytime running lights for good. And here you go. There are 4 different modules that can be coded. The one that we wanna check out right here is the central electronics, which do all the lights in the car. And it will back up all the data on that module in the case that you need to restore it. So you can always go back to original if you want. And you see right here at the top, daytime running lights, the United States, on. We're gonna shut these off, and then we're gonna hit code car. Perfect, so it tells us to turn the ignition off and then on. So we're gonna hit OK. We're gonna turn the ignition off, turn it back on, start the engine up, and that DRL light is gone. I'll drive a little bit and prove it to you, but it will not come back on at all. I almost just hit a tree. like we're at the right place.
Yeah, yeah.
We're at the Ultimate Rebuilds garage, and Zach is really into VW, so much so he took this car right here, which is a Mark V Rabbit, the same platform as our Mark V GTI, and converted it to a Golf R. Everything about this car, with the exception of the drivetrain, is Golf R OEM stuff. We've got a Golf R hood, complete front end, fenders forward, and quarter panels to the back have all been converted, which means that when he did the rear end of the car, he had to source a Mark VI rear hatch. That's a Mark V, that's a Mark VI. Yes, they look very similar, but Zach told me he has the original hatch that came off of this Rabbit hanging out in his garage. We're gonna go get it and slap it on the GTI. And thanks to Zach, it'll end up making our rebuild super cheap. Zach.
What's up, man?
Hey man, you're coming in huge with the replacement hatch for our GTI rebuild. Now this was off your Rabbit Golf R build, right?
Yeah, it was. Just taking up space now though, so you're actually helping me out.
Hey, you're helping us out huge, and well, you told me you'd also help me install it. And if you guys haven't heard about Ultimate Rebuilds, I'm gonna leave a link down below. Zach helps me with a lot of my paint and body work and just general stuff when it comes to rebuilds, and he's got some really cool stuff going on right here. So this right here, I know what this is. This is the Volkspod. Tell everybody a little bit about it.
Yeah, I just put two Beetle fenders together and put it on a mini bike, and everyone fell in love with it.
Yeah, so
I'm making another one.
The detail with the VW logo down there. And so I see you've got another one in progress here. And well, I've been watching, so I know this is going on that. This is an electric.
Electric version, yeah.
Very cool, man.
Should be fast.
Faster than the gas one?
We'll find out. We're gonna race them.
All right, well, how hard is it to get this over there?
Just a couple bolts and some plugs. Should be good to go.
Let's do it. We have everything undone here from the inside of the hatch, our lights, we've got our latch here, but the thing that says VW on the other side, the actual handle, is pinched in between the inner structure of the hatch. So Zach's just gonna go, we're gonna notch it right here with a grinding wheel, and hopefully that will allow us to pop this part out.
There we go.
Cool. Looks great, Zach. I can't thank you enough for the hatch and for your help. I'm gonna finish this rebuild today. All I gotta do is get home and paint it. Thank you again one more time.
You're gonna paint it?
Yeah, I'm gonna paint it. What do you mean by that?
All right. Good luck.
Remember, we're on a time crunch here, so I got home, taped off the GTI, and check it out. We're ready to paint this rear hatch, and I know everybody's thinking, why in the heck didn't you just paint the rear hatch when it was off the car? That's a great question, because that is definitely the appropriate way to paint body panels on a car, and that's because there are no paint shops in Zach's area that would let us order a color match paint. So when I got home, I had to use the curbside service at my local paint shop. We've got the single stage Tornado Red right here, and then we've got the hardener to go with it. Then we've got an Eastwood reducer here. Anytime I have to buy any paint supplies, I like to order them from Eastwood because they're way cheaper than going and just getting the stuff at the paint store. Of course, you got to get the color match at the paint store. Our pre-painting prep right here that we're going to clean off the hatch before we paint it, and I'll be shooting today with the Eastwood Concourse Pro gun. I'm far from being an experienced painter, but with good tools, this is simpler than it looks. Let's lay some paint down and see how well the color matches on this GTI. So like I said earlier, this is a single stage paint. It's one of the cheaper paints you can buy and one of the easier ones you could paint. And out of all the things I've ever personally painted, it's matched the best. Okay, so this is all factory original right here. You can see that little bit of orange peel. That's pretty usual for Volkswagen stuff. Then here's what we painted. This looks a little bit smoother. I can't believe I have less orange peel than the factory, but not bad, right? Not bad. Now in different shades of light, like you could see, look, a little bit brighter than that. But really, for what we're dealing with here for a budget rebuild, it looks phenomenal. Several hours over the last couple days, our rebuild is finished. This car is ready for an inspection, and there's no doubt in my mind it's gonna pass. These are the sorts of cars I'm really enjoying finding at the salvage auction. Decent examples of enthusiast cars, like a 6-speed manual, turbocharged Volkswagen GTI. This is the last of the Mark 5s. It's a phenomenal car. It's a lot of fun to drive, and they're fairly reliable because, you're gonna laugh when I say this, they're pretty simple, okay? There's a few electrical nags, but otherwise, great all-around car. Winning bid on it, $1,700. The salvage auction fees, though, of course, bumped that a little bit over $2,000. We're gonna round things to make the numbers easy. $2,100. If you think about the fees on a percentage basis, they're getting a little bit ridiculous, guys. You know who I'm talking to. Now, we had to replace the hatch, of course. Zach was kind enough to give us the hatch, but if you go online, look at local parts recycling facilities. Those hatches cost about $150. That comes with the glass, with the spoiler. They're littered all over the country. So, $150 for that. We had to buy paint to paint the hatch. It was $40-something. We'll round it to $50. I bought only a half a pint. I still have more of it left. So $50 in paint, that's $200 for our hatch repairs, and another $200 for the intake manifold. That's a part that I did buy at the Volkswagen dealership just so we could get this car done in a really timely fashion. If I had a little bit more time, I would have definitely bought it at FCP Euro because you get a lifetime replacement guarantee. Since it is a part that's known to be problematic, that's a good thing to have. And they sell it a lot cheaper at $150. All in, we're in this car about $2,450. And like I said, it's ready for a rebuild inspection. This thing is done, ready to take a trip. There is one last thing I would personally replace on it, and that is the front grille. It's got a nice chunk missing out of the section of honeycomb there. I didn't find it advantageous to buy one at a parts recycling facility because an old used grill is going to be susceptible to the same cracking issues as this one is. Online, you can find a bunch of different third-party styles for only $50. Mike told me he's already ordered one. So at about $2,500, it's pretty rare to find this specific car, last model year, 4-door with the 6-speed manual transmission and pretty much every single option. So I think it's a phenomenal deal. If you agree with me, be sure to hit that like button. Also, if you're not already following me on Instagram, where I'm posting all the new project cars like I did the Volkswagen GTI there before anything goes live here on YouTube, well, just go right here or click the link in the description box below. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today, and I'll catch you very soon.